he lost his sight. He buried his wife. He wanted nothing but silence. But when a blind widower finds a half-frozen girl in the wreck of a wagon, he carries her home, not knowing she's a baroness, worth more than the land he lives on. She says nothing. She trusts no one. But men are coming with guns and papers, calling her property. And this quiet, broken man, he just became the last line between her freedom and the life they want to drag her back to. Elias Boone didn't need eyes to know something was wrong. He felt it in the air, the kind of wrong that settled into your bones before it showed its face. Snow was falling light and sharp, but the wind behind it had weight. The trail up Raven Hill was quiet, too quiet. Not a single raven, not even a squirrel, just pine creaking and hooves in rhythm. He slowed his horse, tilted his head, listened. Snap. Not branches. Wood. Something heavier. Something broken. He dismounted fast, one hand on the saddle, the other gripping the cane he didn't need unless the ground was unfamiliar. The wind cut against his coat, his ears sharpened. Then came the smell. Burnt leather, wet fur, and blood. His boot found the edge of splintered timber. He crouched, ran his fingers across it. Wagon frame, shattered axle, cold metal, cold wood. Something had come down the pass and crashed hard. Then he heard it. A breath, shallow, jagged, human. He followed the sound like a bloodhound. Canvas rustled beneath his gloves. Then, there she was, curled up under what was left of a wagon tarp, barely conscious. Her skin pale as snow, lips cracked, dress soaked and stiff with ice. She didn't even react when he brushed snow off her face. Her fingers gripped something, a leather satchel, small, expensive, out of place in the wreck. Elias leaned in, checked her pulse at the neck. Weak, but there. She weighed next to nothing as he lifted her. Just bones, silk, and cold air. "You stay alive, girl," he muttered. "I don't dig graves in snow." He threw her satchel over his saddle, mounted with her across his lap, and turned back down the trail. His cabin was 5 miles out. No neighbors, no doctors, no questions. Just warmth, shelter, time. He didn't ask who she was. Didn't need to. He only knew what mattered. Someone had left her to die. And Elias Boone wasn't about to let that happen again, not while he still had breath in his lungs. The first thing she noticed was warmth. Not gentle warmth. Fierce warmth. The kind that burns on frost-bitten skin. It hurt, but she didn't pull away. Her fingers twitched, then curled tighter around what wasn't there. The satchel was gone. Her eyes blinked open. Wood ceiling. Stone fireplace, shadows dancing on rough-planked walls. She tried to sit up. Her ribs screamed. She gasped, sharp and involuntary. From the far side of the room, a deep voice answered without looking up. "Don't move too quick. You're cracked up pretty good." She turned her head, slow. A man sat by the stove, stirring a pot. Middle-aged, worn coat, thick hands. White eyes that stared through the flames like they could still see. He didn't get up, didn't turn. "You're safe. Cabin's mine. Name's Elias Boone." She opened her mouth to speak. Nothing came out. Her lips were too dry. Her throat, dust. He heard her struggle, reached behind him, grabbed a mug, and set it on the table beside her cot. "Drink slow. Water's warm." She pushed herself up inch by inch, biting her lip, reached for the mug, took one sip, coughed, then drank again. He waited. When she could finally speak, her voice cracked like dry wood. "Where am I?" "Couple miles off Raven Hill," he said. "Found your wagon wrecked, horse dead. You were half buried in snow." She gripped the edge of the cot. "My bag?" corner of the room. I didn't touch it." She turned her head fast. Too fast. Her vision blurred. But the satchel was there, just like he said. Leather, dark green, sealed tight. Untouched. Her shoulders relaxed a fraction. "Thank you," she murmured. Elias didn't nod, just ladled stew into a wooden bowl and brought it over, setting it gently on a crate beside her. "You can eat and go once you're steady. I ain't asking questions." She looked at him. Really looked. A man with a scar running from his jaw to his neck, a face that had seen grief and grit and maybe worse. Blind, but not broken. "Why'd you help me?" she asked. Elias shrugged. "Didn't look like you were ready to die." She stared at him. "You're not curious who I am?" "Nope. I could be dangerous." "I've buried dangerous," he said simply. Silence stretched between them like wire. Outside, wind howled through the pines. She sipped the stew. Her fingers still trembled, but for the first time in days, she wasn't running. She wasn't hiding. Not yet, anyway. But she also didn't tell him her name. And Elias didn't ask, because something in his gut told him, when the name came, it would come with trouble. Towns like Clover Pass don't get visitors in blizzards. That's why they noticed the horses right away. 3 of them, lean and fast, carrying riders who didn't look built for ranch work. Coats too clean, spurs too polished, boots that had never seen mud. The lead rider dismounted slow outside the general store. Sheriff Griggs followed, chewing the inside of his cheek, already tired of whatever this was. The stranger stepped inside, holding a folded paper. Behind the counter, Mr. Dillard didn't look up right away. He was stacking tins of lard. "You new in town?" he asked without turning. The man didn't answer, just unfolded the paper and laid it on the counter. Dillard paused. It wasn't a wanted poster. Not exactly. No bounty amount on it. Just a name at the top in bold script. Lady Evelyn Marquette. Missing. Beneath it, a sketch. Near perfect. Same high cheekbones, same sharp eyes. Griggs stepped forward. "She yours?" "She belongs to people with influence," the stranger replied. "People with hearts?" Griggs asked dryly. The man smiled without humor. "She's not in trouble. We just want her returned safely. There's a reward." "How much?" Dillard asked, just to test the waters. "Enough to make loyalty uncomfortable." Griggs folded his arms. "Well, loyalty still runs warm in this town, sir. Storm hit hard last week. No riders came through, no fancy girls either." The man tilted his head. "That your final answer?" Griggs nodded. "That's the only answer." The stranger tucked the poster back into his coat. "We'll check the outer trails, cabins, hunting routes. Sometimes people don't even know what they're hiding." He walked out without another word. Behind him, 2 more men split off, one toward the inn, one toward the livery. Quiet, efficient. Dillard muttered, "That girl's more than someone's daughter." Griggs nodded. "She's someone's property." 10 miles north, Evelyn stood in Elias's cabin holding her satchel tight against her chest. She didn't know her name had gone public. Didn't know her face was being passed around like a claim deed. Didn't know that money had already crossed hands. And not everyone in Clover Pass planned to stay loyal. But Elias felt it. That tight wind again, the one that comes right before something breaks loose. Elias Boone didn't need to see her to know she was lying. Not the kind of lie you speak. The kind you carry in your shoulders, your silence, the way you flinch when a floorboard creaks. For days now, she'd moved like a deer fresh from the snare. Sleeping with one eye open, watching the door like it might betray her. Holding that satchel like it had a loaded pistol inside. She still hadn't given him a name. He still hadn't asked, because Elias wasn't blind in the ways that mattered. That morning, she tried to help. Made eggs, burned them, carried wood, dropped half of it, apologized too much. "You don't have to earn your stay," Elias said, not unkindly. "You already did, by surviving." She froze, then nodded, but he heard the guilt in her steps. Heavy, misplaced, maybe earned. Later, she swept the porch with quick, nervous strokes. Snow drifted in low, soft curls. She kept looking down the trail. "You expecting company?" Elias asked from inside. She didn't answer right away. "No," she said finally. I like knowing what's coming." Elias set down his coffee. "Nobody likes what's coming. They just want to feel ready for it." He waited. Nothing. She came in an hour later, face flushed from cold, hands trembling just a little too much. That satchel still never left her side. That night, after she thought Elias was asleep, she lit a candle low and opened the satchel for the first time. Inside, a silver locket, a sealed envelope, and fine gloves no farmer's daughter could afford. The letter was thick, heavy with embossed edges. Wax seal, M. The Marquette crest. She unfolded the letter, read it again, for the 100th time. "You were born into legacy. You will marry legacy. Your duty is not to desire. It is to preserve." She almost tore it in half, but didn't. Instead, she tucked it back, shut the bag tight, and whispered to herself, "They don't get to choose. Not this time." Across the room, Elias turned over in bed. Didn't say a word, but he'd heard it. Every last word. He still didn't know exactly who she was, but he knew what she was running from. Control, legacy, chains in silk gloves. And now, whether she liked it or not, she wasn't running alone anymore. It came at dusk. 3 slow, deliberate knocks on the cabin door. Not frantic, not friendly. The kind of knock that already knows what it's there for. Elias was seated in his chair by the fire, sharpening a blade by touch, stone against steel. The knocking didn't startle him, didn't rush him. He set the knife down calmly and stood, reaching for his cane. In the corner, Evelyn froze. Her breath caught. The satchel was already clutched tight in her lap, like she'd felt this moment coming for days. "Stay back," Elias said quietly, not as an order, as a shield. He walked to the door and opened it 3 inches, not more. Outside stood a man with a pressed wool coat and boots too polished for real work. Tall, clean-shaven, soft hands. The kind of man who didn't travel for himself. He gave a nod. "Evening. I'm looking for a girl. Traveled alone. Might have come through after the storm. About this tall." He raised a gloved hand. "Black coat, fair skin. Goes by Evelyn." Elias didn't blink, didn't change posture, just let the silence stretch. "Name's Hale," the man said finally. "I'm employed by her family. They're concerned." "You see a sign out front?" Elias asked flatly. Hale smiled. "No, sir." "Exactly." He started to close the door. Hale leaned slightly forward, blocking it with just a boot heel. "She's in danger, Mr. Boone." "Well, Mr. Boone, she's in danger. People are looking. Not all of them as polite as me. You hand her over, you keep your hands clean." Elias didn't budge. "You always bring threats with your manners?" "No threats," Hale said. "Just facts." "Here's one," Elias said. "If I find your boot in my doorframe again, I won't need to see you to stop you." Hale held his smile, but the edge cracked, just a little. "All right," he said, stepping back. "We'll be around." He turned and walked off. no rush. Just the slow, confident stride of a man who thought time was on his side. Elias waited until he heard the horse ride off. The crunch of snow, the slow fade of hooves down the ridge. Then he closed the door. Inside, Evelyn stood against the wall, eyes wide. He knows. He guesses, Elias said. There's a difference. He'll come back. Elias nodded. Let him. She stared at him, voice shaking. Why are you helping me? Elias leaned his cane against the wall, sat down by the fire again. 'Cause I've buried one woman already. I'm not about to let another one disappear on my land without a damn good reason. Evelyn sank to the floor. For the first time since the storm, she cried, not out of fear, but because someone, finally, wasn't trying to sell her back to her name. Evelyn couldn't sleep. The wind had died down, the fire was low, and Elias had long since gone quiet. But her mind wouldn't stop. Guilt had a way of making the air feel heavier, even inside a warm cabin. She sat at the small table by the window, the satchel open in front of her like a wound she couldn't close. Inside, a sealed envelope with the Marquette crest, thick, embossed parchment, unmistakable, the kind of letter that opened doors, bought silence, and claimed land. It had been written in her own hand, just days before the wedding she never showed up for. To the Marquette estate and any man who claims ownership of me, you may keep the title, you may keep the land, but you will never keep me. She should have burned it before she ever left. Instead, she carried it like a final nail, proof that she had chosen herself, proof that she'd said no. But now it was a liability. If Hale, or worse, got a hold of it, they'd know exactly where she went, what she planned, and how far she was willing to run. She picked it up with trembling fingers. The wax seal cracked. Her eyes scanned it one last time. Then she stood, walked to the fire, and fed the letter into the flames. It curled, smoked, disappeared. From his cot, Elias stirred. You burned something you wrote, he said, calm as ever. Evelyn turned sharply. How could you? I can smell wax, he said, and ink, and endings. She sat back down, hands shaking. I thought it would protect me, she whispered, but now I think it would have gotten you killed. Elias stood and made his way to the table, slowly, carefully. He sat across from her. You didn't need to protect me, he said. Just needed to be honest. She looked at him for a long moment. No lies left to give. I'm Evelyn Marquette, she said softly. Only daughter of Granton Marquette. The marriage I ran from? It wasn't love. It was a land deal. I was the contract. Elias nodded once. No shock, no judgment. They still think they own me, she added. That I'll come back if they just pull the right strings. You coming back? He asked. No, she said. Then stop carrying their name like it still owns you. Evelyn exhaled, like she'd been holding that breath since the day she left. I'm not who I was out there. Then be who you are here, Elias said. She looked around the cabin, at the fire, the cracked floorboards, the stew pot still warm. It wasn't much, but it was hers now. Outside, snow began to fall again, light, quiet. But far off, somewhere down the pass, 3 riders crept up the trail, their eyes fixed on a thin line of smoke curling from the chimney. They didn't knock this time. They were just waiting. Elias knew they were coming before he heard a sound. It was the air. Still again, not calm, watched. That kind of stillness only shows up before something breaks. He opened the front door just enough to feel the shift in the wind. They were close. Inside, Evelyn was slicing potatoes with the slow rhythm of someone trying to act normal. The satchel, now empty, still sat near her feet, like a memory she hadn't let go. Elias stepped back in, closing the door behind him like it was part of a ritual. "You should sit down," he said. Her hands froze. "They're here?" He nodded once. "3 riders. Can't say how many'll knock." She sat. Didn't cry. Didn't tremble. She was done running. The hooves came soft at first, like wolves pretending to be horses. Then the crunch of boots on snow. Leather creaked. One man lit a cigar like it was just another stop on the trail. A knock. 1, 2, 3. Same rhythm as Hale's, but heavier. Elias opened the door, shotgun at his side but not raised. On the porch stood a man Elias didn't recognize. Tall, dark coat, wide shoulders, hat pulled low. Not a talker. Behind him, Hale stood. Smug, gloved, too clean. "We said we'd come back." Hale smiled. "You remember that, Boone?" Elias didn't move. "Still no sign out front." The taller man stepped forward. "You harboring a runaway noble?" "No," Elias said. "I'm housing a woman who survived a storm. She's property." Elias's voice dropped a note. "She's human." The taller man raised his chin. "You gonna stop us?" "I don't need to," Elias said. "She will." Evelyn stepped into the doorway then, coat on, face hard. "I'm not going back," she said. Hale chuckled. "You don't have a choice, Lady Marquette." "I burned that name," she snapped. "You want it? Dig it out of the ashes." The tall man grabbed her arm. Fast. That's when the shotgun came up. Elias didn't flinch. "Let go! Now!" The man froze. "You wouldn't shoot blind," he said. Elias cocked the hammer. "No," he said. "I'd shoot practiced." Hale raised his hands. "All right," he said. "This ain't worth blood." He looked Evelyn in the eye. "But it's not over. The name follows you." Evelyn took a breath. "Let it. I don't follow it anymore." They backed off, mounting slow, not running, just regrouping. But Elias knew the look in their eyes. They wouldn't try again tonight. Still, he stayed on the porch until the hoofbeats faded completely. That night, Evelyn didn't sleep. She sat by the fire, watching it burn low, thinking of all the things she didn't say. And Elias? He sat across from her, silent, awake. The world hadn't changed, but she had. Morning came slow. Sunlight bled through the frosted windows, casting long gold bars across the wooden floor. The fire had died down to embers, but the cabin was warm. Elias was already up, stacking kindling by the stove, moving by feel. Routine, simple, steady. Evelyn stood near the door, her coat on, her satchel packed for the 3rd time in a week. She looked different now, not just stronger, decided. "I could leave," she said. "You could," Elias replied. "No one would stop me." "Nope." She waited. "I'm not asking for permission," she added. "Didn't think you were. But I'm not running either." Elias finally turned. Blind eyes leveled her way. "So what are you doing?" She reached into the satchel, pulled out the silver locket she hadn't touched in days, and opened it. Inside, her mother's portrait. The one person who never treated her like a pawn. She closed it gently and set it on the table by the window. Then she dropped the satchel beside it, the same way you drop a weight you've been carrying too long. "I'm staying," she said. "Not as Evelyn Marquette. Just Evelyn." Elias nodded once, like he already knew. They spent the morning in quiet. No big moment, no announcement, just 2 people making peace with their own ghosts. A week later, a neighbor from town stopped by. Hadn't been up the trail since the thaw. He brought a jar of honey and news. "Riders are gone," he said. "Town says Hale left in the night, took his men and the bounty with him." Elias didn't react. Evelyn smiled, small but real. "Sheriff posted a note at the inn," the man continued. "Said something about no more questions for the cabin north of the pass." "Sounds like enough peace for one winter," Elias said. Spring came slow, but it came. Wildflowers pushed through thawed dirt. The trees stopped groaning, and the cabin no longer felt like a place to hide. It felt like a place to grow. One morning, Evelyn found Elias sitting on the porch sharpening a new blade. "I'm thinking of planting a garden," she said casually. "You know anything about soil?" "Nope," he smirked. "You'll learn." She sat beside him. "Do you ever regret staying here?" she asked. Elias didn't answer right away. Then, "Not once." They sat in silence as the wind moved gently through the pines. The name Marquette was gone, burned, left behind, but Evelyn remained, exactly where she chose to be.